So, Netflix made a new Devil May Cry show, and it was so fun, like, half the time. But the other half had problems. Spoilers for the whole show, by the way. I've never played these games. My knowledge of this franchise is based entirely on Dante's death battle with Bayonetta, vaguely knowing who Nero is, and some Yahtzee reviews. Take this as a review to figure out what someone who's almost completely unfamiliar with the franchise thinks of it. Having said that, I reiterate, this show was fun. Dante was great. Not sure if he's supposed to come off as what I can only describe as a cold dork, but he did, and I liked it. One second he's trying to come off as cool, and usually failing at it, and the next he's just effortlessly doing something incredibly cool. Though I can't lie, from the little I do know about DMC, I kind of expected Dante to be more overwhelmingly powerful. And he was powerful, but only really to the designated father. And I suppose that kind of makes sense when you consider this is supposed to be an origin about him awakening his power, but I don't know, I expected more spectacle. I genuinely thought we were gonna get a scene of him beating up ladies' friends and that they were really only there to like show the real difference between pre-Devil Power Dante and post-Devil Power Dante, but then they all died. Well, maybe that's just me. When the show let him do his thing, it was great. But specifically when it let him do his thing. Okay, let's talk about Lady. I know what her name is, but it's really only relevant to me because of the sound of Vice President Batman saying Arkham. I don't really know anything about Lady in the game, so I didn't realize she would be such a prominent character when she was introduced. Like, being the actual main character prominent. Which leads to what I think is the biggest problem both with the show and with her. In that, a combination of how simple the plot really is when you break it down, and the direction they chose to take it negatively affected her as a character. Okay, let me break this down. Dante is overpowered. And when you really look at it, with only him present, the whole plotline lasts like 4 episodes, and even that may be a stretch. As I watched the show, I couldn't help but think, wow, they are really using Lady to extend the show's runtime. By a lot. Like constantly cutting back and forth between her learning not to be racist and Dante unlocking his devil trigger. Now, I know what a deuteragonist is, but it's not simply a matter of her having a plotline. It's a matter of the plot being about her. That's what really gave me the vibe of, does she think she's the main character? When Dante comes to his realization about the fact he should care about what's happening and protect his dad's work, she literally has a line that's like, it's not about your dad, it's about me. And she's right. But why? This is like the anti-miraculous Ladybug. Instead of having the main character butt into someone else's story to make themselves the focus, here the main character is trying to be the focus when, in the grand scheme of things, they're a plot device that knows how to fight. And once again, Dante is overpowered. I get that that's the reason they go out of their way to make sure he doesn't really do much, but A, that's not really an excuse when they could have written a different plot. I've seen enough discussion to know that they aren't being accurate to the official games. Lady apparently isn't even a character until Devil May Cry 3. And B, there is a point where it gets frustrating, and because Lady is the plot extender, all that frustration gets focused on her. To prove my point, let's go over this. In episode 2, Lady captures Dante. This is already a pretty precarious position to put a character in because we like Dante, and she's basically antagonizing him for no reason the whole time. And let's face it, antagonizing the main character is audience poison. We like Dante, and she and the government are just trampling over him, with her being the face of it, so we're just being primed to dislike her, even if on some level we can understand her reasoning. Then there's the bridge scene. Dante is overpowered, so the show needs to put obstacles in the way of him, like killing the main villains. This is mostly in the form of being shackled until the end, but even at the end, the bomb she put in his head goes off right before he can send the rabbit 6 feet under, so she and DARKCOM are already making things worse. Then there's the whole playing devil trigger thing, with switching between scenes that I've already discussed. Then there's realizing the fact that the main plot is about the villain hating her, her team, and her whole company, and the real conflict is between them, with Dante really just being a means to an end in this plot about DARKCOM killing refugees and America invading hell. Oh yeah, right, she's also been complicit in killing refugees. But don't worry, she learns not to do that and orders her men to rescue the demons in the building. This is immediately negated by her boss having them all killed, but because of plot shenanigans, she never notices this. Now of course, that isn't her fault. But it means that as we watch her do everything she does after this, we have to keep in mind that the family that saved her life got burned to death after trusting her, and she continues to trust the guy who did it even as he keeps popping up evil red flags. Anyway, she and Dante reunite, and despite everything that's happened up to now, she's still antagonizing him. This made sense when she thought he was an evil demon, but she just learned that demons are just analogies for Middle Easterners, and if anything, I think she somehow got even more hostile to him. To go back to what I said about audience poison, this kind of dynamic only works if the character we like is being antagonistic back. Otherwise, it's bullying. And Dante is decidedly not being antagonistic to her. Then when Dante finally wants to go do the plot instead of just being kidnapped by everyone, she shoots him in the leg and runs off because we're only on episode 7 before Dante gets even an inkling of the refugee plotline, and even then he doesn't really know anything about the rabbit or what's going on. And then, after the villain is beaten, she beats Dante and helps DARKCOM capture him immediately after watching her boss start an invasion of hell. Remember, she recently learned that demons actually aren't inherently evil, and it seems she doesn't care. Look, I know her character arc isn't complete, but the season is, and I feel like there's a limit to how many innocent lives you can fail to notice you're helping your obviously evil boss kill before I'm allowed to complain about it, and she has clearly hit that limit. The thing is, I don't dislike Lady's arc in and of itself, just how it's used in the narrative, and even though I can identify all the narrative reasons she's acting like this, it doesn't change the fact that she's acting like this. Besides, my liking of her arc might just be carried by the White Rabbit. The White Rabbit was the best part of the show. The design, the voice acting, his skill and planning, it was all great, and his backstory made it even better. By the way, the fact I walked away from episode 6 feeling far more sympathetic to him than Lady is another thing I feel might be a failure of the writing. Her family wasn't even killed by demons, just her very human crazy dad. Especially when her reaction to other people's backstories is going blah blah blah, who cares about your sad backstory. Seriously, look at this image. Look at it. Rabbit's whole plotline about running away to Makai and then having his family killed, and how it ties into how Lady, and to a lesser extent unfortunately, Dante's families died, and how things like that creates monsters, was excellent. The only thing holding it back was Lady. Okay, I wrote the first draft of this video as a sort of stream of consciousness, and I'm going to be honest with you, I was shocked and appalled that Lady showed up again. Villains don't exist in a vacuum. They're often meant to reflect and enhance whatever is going on with the hero. The White Rabbit is a broken reflection of the violence he was subjected to by Lady's team, so the confrontation between the two of them was like a crystallization of the entire plotline. The rabbit did his bit, bringing in the dramatic story, trying to justify his incredibly evil actions and distilling the similarities between everyone. The problem was, well, Lady's conclusion, in that she doesn't really reach it. She just goes, of course, only a human could be this psychotic. First of all, how dare you say that when you only stopped talking about how incredibly inherently evil demons were like literally an hour ago? And secondly, that was your conclusion? She barely reflects on her own actions and then goes right back to working for Vice President Batman as they start bombing poor families. I like to think that Rabbit realized he was just getting stonewalled with trying to be the villain for Lady, so at the end of episode 7 he was like, fuck it, let me focus on Dante. And it kind of works, but Dante is really late to the party, doesn't know anything, and his conclusion of not letting all the evil demons have access to humanity was predictable. I don't think he even really thinks about what the rabbit's been saying about his dad locking all the non-evil demons with Mundus. It's like Lady got all the good setup and Dante got the mostly good conclusion, but neither got to have both. Also, for all the sympathy I have for the rabbit, he's clearly wrong. I think I could make a whole separate video just about him. It's not a good thing that what I think is the shakiest part of his writing, that is his decision to bring down the barrier separating Earth and Hell, is the part that's the only reason Dante is even here in the first place. Okay, so do I have anything else to say? You know, I actually like the crazy religious vice president and his whole science of religion and God has a plan thing as a morally grey ally the hero definitely shouldn't trust. He got less interesting with the whole burning refugees thing and I was like, oh, so he really is just the obvious bad guy. And then he and the American army actually successfully invaded hell to the point of being able to build a giant prison and I just checked out. I guess Mundus isn't that big a deal if he and his forces have to resort to guerrilla warfare to beat these guys. Unless the plan is to use the humans' invasion to unify the lesser demons' loyalty to him, which I hope is the case. I actually like the comic relief here. Enzo was entertaining like 80% of the time, especially when talking to Dante. It almost made me ignore how baffled I was that he was still around. Why did everyone insist on bringing him with them wherever they went? It felt unnatural and dumb. His sacrifice came out of nowhere. Like, it made me sad, but it also made me confused. I can buy that he actually cares about Dante, but like, what was he even doing? What the hell has Sparta been doing for the last 2 millennia, and why did he just briefly come out of it to just have 2 children and then disappear again? Did they really make demons an allegory for the Middle East? Lady totally dies here, by the way. I enjoyed the show for the most part. I really loved the action, but I think it says quite a bit that episode 6 was my favorite episode and I think it might have the least action out of all of them. But I can't look past the flaws that ultimately I blame on the plotline needing to be stretched out and the decisions taken to get there and frankly odd choices made with the characters that just take me out of it. You know, when I was making this video I wasn't sure if I should put it here or on my new anime channel, but I decided to go with this one. By the way, I have a new anime channel. Check it out if you like anime and manga. It's got almost 50 videos on it now. Shout out to my patrons A and Skyman. What did you think of the show? Tell me in the comments below, and while you're at it, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more content. Thank you and good day.